a new batch of Epstein information that has been released by the House Oversight Committee. House Democrats released more photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. That is the information. Also, take a look at some of those newly released photos. Trump, Clinton, Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, and others. There's a photo of Donald Trump, a couple of photos there that we'll go through. Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump with some young ladies and people whose faces have been, you can call it redacted. They've been blacked out in the photographs. And so it is Epstein, Epstein, Epstein's. Again, this is the new information, and there are reports coming in. This report is coming from NBC. There's also another NBC report that I will send you, Andy, because the reports are coming fast and furious now. We've been trying to keep up with them, but pardon me, the House Democrats released more photos from Jeffrey Epstein. The release, which contains photographs of Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and other prominent figures, comes amid next week's deadline for the Justice Department to give what files it has on Epstein to Congress. And so there is a very prominent photograph of Jeffrey Epstein along with Donald Trump that is the focus of this NBC report. And it goes on to read, it says, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee on Friday released a second batch of images from the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's estate. The photos include pictures of Epstein with a number of high-profile figures, including President Donald Trump, longtime Trump ally Steve Bannon, former President Bill Clinton, former Clinton Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, businessman Bill Gates, and movie director Woody Allen. They do not show any illegal activity by these individuals, it says. It is time to end this White House cover-up and bring justice to the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and his powerful friends. The committee's ranking member, Robert Garcia, Democrat of California, friend of this show, said, these disturbing photos raise even more questions about Epstein and his relationships with some of the most powerful men in the world. We will not rest until the American people get the truth. The Department of Justice must release all files now in capital letters. So remember, they had previously released more than 150 photos and videos of Epstein's island that we showed to you here on the Don Lemon Show. That was earlier this month. Also were received from his estate. Those came from his estate. The initial collection showed the outdoor pool area, as you know, but these are images of very prominent people. Now, imagine you're one of these people who don't know, and you're just sort of in the background there. You're like, oh my gosh, do I want this picture up? But there's Donald Trump with she looks familiar from the side. Like, I don't know, is she like, was I Miss something, USA, Miss Universe, Miss something? But anyways, that young lady looks really familiar, but I don't know who exactly that is. Doesn't mean she has anything to do with any of this, but I'm just saying. So that is the latest information. More details are coming in. And so, again, Jeffrey Epstein, nearly 100,000 photos obtained by the House. 100,000. Wow. Democrats from the estate of the notorious sex predator, Jeffrey Epstein, include images of President Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, film director Woody Allen, and former Trump White House advisor Steve Bannon, and others in social setting. One image among a batch of photos released on Friday morning shows Trump standing in the middle of a row of 6 women. I think that's the one where the faces were blacked out. Those faces were covered over by the Democrats before release. Some of the women are wearing Hawaiian leis around their necks. Trump is shown in another photo, standing behind Epstein at what appears to be a social event. A third photo shows Trump sitting next to a woman whose face is blacked out on what appears to be a plane. Okay. Trump is a longtime friend of Epstein. Before the two men had a falling out sometime in the early 2000s. He has not been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein and has denied knowledge of Epstein's abuse of girls and women while they are friends. Clinton is shown in one photo standing with Epstein. His now convicted procurer, who is Ghislaine Maxwell, and another man and woman. The photo has Clinton's signature on it. Other photos show former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, Britain's Prince Andrew, and Epstein's one-time lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. The dates, locations, and context of the photos were not revealed as part of the release on Friday. This latest production contains 95,000 photos, including images of the wealthy and powerful men who spent time with Jeffrey Epstein. That's a statement from Democrats on the House Oversight Committee and Government Reform Committee said. These images include thousands of photographs of women in Epstein properties, the statement said. Committee Democrats are reviewing the full set of photos and will continue to release photos to the public in the days and weeks ahead. Committee Democrats are committed to protecting the identities of the survivors. And then it goes on to give the statement that I read you from Robert Garcia. Trump and top law enforcement officials in his administration for months resisted the idea of releasing investigative files related to Epstein and Maxwell before Congress in November overwhelmingly passed a law mandating their release by the Department of Justice. So here we are. Look, guys, it comes back to Epstein. It's always Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. And someone in the comments says nothing new here. That's not true. This is new. There are new things. There are new images. And the thing that it does is it shows that their relationship went beyond what Donald Trump is claiming that it was. That, I knew him, he was a bad guy and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't say that he was best friends with the guy. He doesn't let on how much he hung out with him. He doesn't say that I invited him to my wedding. He doesn't say that I attended fashion shows with him. He doesn't say that I attended functions with him. He doesn't say that I attended a Hawaiian party, a luau party where there were people with leis with him, wearing leis. He doesn't say that I was buddy hanging out in whatever this situation, the photograph that's on the screen. So don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining outside. And don't try to tell me there is nothing new here. Yeah, we knew it. But I want you to think about this. All of the people who Donald Trump mentions when he's trying to deflect are the people who are mentioned in this article. And so he's trying to blame, look, these are the Democrats who had the relationship with him. I didn't have a relationship with him. It is Bill Clinton. It's Larry Summers. And it's all of the people that he goes, it's Bill Gates. It's all the liberals. It's all the people that he goes on to talk about except for himself. And Bill Clinton is no longer the president of the United States. And if Bill Clinton did something wrong, he has denied it. He's put out a statement saying there's nothing there. They were friends. He didn't do anything. But if he did something wrong, then Bill Clinton should suffer the consequences. And I would say that about anyone. It's not just that Donald Trump is Donald Trump and that he's MAGA and that he's Republican, but it is that Donald Trump is Donald Trump and he's MAGA, he's a Republican. He is the sitting president of the United States, and he has the power to release these files. So this is new. So don't tell me this is not some new shit and this is stuff that we already knew. Sure, we know. I mean, we could say maybe you're saying it, in jest, like, come on, we knew this, we know this. But the more the evidence comes out, the crazier, the more bombastic, the angrier he gets, the more he tries to deflect. He keeps talking about the Democrats, and every single person who's in these photographs, Donald Trump mentions because he knows, because he was there. Well, you can't say that he was there. Yes, I can. Look at the photos. He was there. He's in the inner circle. Birds of a feather. That's what they say. Now, I know that you go to events. Many times you can go to events and you're just photographed with people, right? You could be standing in the same room with them and it's at some big function. And they'll say, oh, let me grab a picture. It's happened to me. And you're like, oh my God, do I really want to be in a picture with that person? But in the moment, you just happen to be standing next to them. I get that. This is not that. This is something else. This is Donald Trump. There's too much circumstantial evidence. And so all of the distractions that you are seeing, the Venezuela boats, the let's round people up off the streets, these are diabolical, I believe, diabolical and intentional, sometimes intentional, but I think what he tries to do when he tries to distract is that he will do something he thinks is going to be small. We're going to start rounding people up, and that'll take them whatever, and then it gets out of control, and the people become abusive. Or we're going to have these boat strikes in Venezuela. Nobody cares about Venezuela. We can say they're bringing drugs over. It's no big deal. And then it turns out to be a potential war crime. So he knows what's up. If can you guys get me the soundbite or something where he mentioned, or a Truth Social or something where he mentions every single one of these people, except he doesn't mention Steve Bannon. I don't remember him mentioning Steve Bannon. I don't remember him mentioning Alan Dershowitz, because Alan Dershowitz has been carrying Donald Trump's water for a couple of years now. It sounded like some Philly water for a couple of years now. So, but he mentions all of the Democrats because he knows he can sell that to his MAGA base, and they'll just say it's the Democrats. It's always the economy, which is terrible. It's always, it is the Democrats' fault. It's Joe Biden's fault. And let's remember, at the time, thank you very much, Chloe, Albert's revenge. He was a Democrat at the time. See, the Republicans forget that. But these are newly released photos, and people are going to start talking. Robert Garcia is going to show up somewhere. Republicans are going to show up somewhere. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to use this against Donald Trump. Michael, thank you for joining us. So much breaking news this morning. What the hell is going on in Washington, D.C. this morning?
Friday in Washington. It's what they do here sometimes.
It's a Friday news dump, but this news dump is really significant. So can you talk to us about all of it? Can you talk to us first? I want to get to what happened with the Senate, the failed healthcare, but we have breaking news as it relates to the Epstein files. And so what's going on with that?
So Democrats on the Oversight Committee released, I think about close to 24 images that they said were from the Epstein estate. These were photos that were on one of Epstein's laptops and in his email account. And a lot of these photos depict prominent figures, many of whom we knew Epstein associated with. There are 3 photos in this drop that have President Trump. One is a photo of Epstein with Trump in 1997 at a Victoria's Secret party. That photo has been made public before. There are 2 other photos of Trump with women whose identities have been redacted, which is something that the Democrats on the committee have been doing to protect any women who might be in these photos who could have been potential victims or survivors of Epstein's sexual abuse. And then there's a photo in here that I think Republicans will probably draw a lot of attention to of Epstein with Bill Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell. And there are a few other folks in these pictures who are prominent kind of media, business, academic figures like Larry Summers, who are in these photos with Mr. Epstein or without Epstein.
And there are photos of, we are told, let's see, from Prince Andrew and Bill Gates and Woody Allen and Bill Clinton and others. There's a photograph of Donald Trump on a plane with a woman, and yeah. So all of this is very interesting. He can no longer say, "Hey, I didn't really know the guy that well," but
Yeah, it's a little complicated. I want to caution here, we don't have the immediate context for a lot of these pictures. We don't know if any of these photos were taken, or how many of these photos, I should say, might have been taken by Epstein. We don't know how many of these photos were taken by others. But I think Trump has acknowledged by this point that he did know Epstein. It's pretty well documented that the 2 of them had this friendship of sorts in the 90s, and that they had a falling out sometime in.
But he does downplay it. He doesn't say that they were.
He does downplay it, absolutely. Yeah, he does downplay it. And I just think, this is never something that the White House wants to be answering questions about. This is never something Republicans want to be talking about. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. But I think one thing we need to think about when we look at these photos is that theoretically, the deadline for the Justice Department to release its files is next week. The Congress passed this law in November, giving them 30 days to release their files, and that 30 days will be up on December 19th. And so there is a way in which I think Democrats are releasing these photos to just kind of add to the pressure, point to the Justice Department and say, when are you going to give us your material?
Michael, I want to play. This is Robert Garcia, who's head of the Oversight Committee on the Capitol steps just moments ago. Here it is.
Obviously, just last night, we received about 95,000 photographs from the Epstein estate. I want to be clear. Our committee, Oversight Democrats, have gone through maybe about 25,000 of them so far. So there's an enormous amount of photos that we have not gone through. It will take days and weeks to ensure that we go through those photos and that a redaction is done in the appropriate way. Let me just also say that clearly we have put out, I think maybe 15 to 20 of those photos this morning, Democrats have. We will continue to put out more photos in the days and weeks ahead. But I just caution folks that the redaction process and ensuring that we are protecting the survivors and the women who were abused by Epstein are protected.
What else do you?
He's going to lose his mind, Michael. Meaning Trump. He's, yeah.
Look, I think that the president is deeply upset every time he has to talk about this. And we've seen it in his statements. You know, it's one of the list of things that he calls hoaxes to dismiss and to keep people from talking about. I really think that the net result of this is going to be to drum up even more attention to the ultimate release of these files. And remember, one of the big questions here is that bill that Congress passed does allow some exemptions. It does allow some exceptions. And so there are a lot of questions here about what we're actually going to get, when we might get them. And, you know, I want to point out that I believe it was Senate Democrats this week sent a message to Pam Bondi asking for more details on the chain of custody of these documents, because they want to make sure that whatever we do get hasn't been tampered with. So there's just going to be a lot of questions continued about the files and what's going on.
So what do you think? What's next before we move on to, I'm going to talk about healthcare. What's next as it relates to this? Is this just a wait and see game? Because I think it's also related to what I want to discuss with you as well about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says she wants Mike Johnson out of there. This is evidence for her. This is ammo for her, so to speak.
Yeah, what's next? I mean, I think you heard Congressman Garcia say that there are more photos that they're going to go through. So that is always a possibility that we might just see more of these at some point in the next week or two. I think all eyes are turning to the Justice Department at this point, is when we get material and what we get. I think that's the next big question. And it's something that Republicans and the White House are going to have to kind of grapple with once the files come out on the Epstein front.
As we said, we have some new information on the Epstein files. We talked to you about the economy, but here is Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is the Republican who is leading the charge to have the Epstein information released, this discharge petition, right? And then now they have the votes, but they have the votes and they're supposed to release them. The date is coming up soon. And so here's Thomas Massie just this morning.
If DOJ doesn't release the files it has by next Friday, is there anything Congress can do to compel that to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a crime if they don't. It's not like they're in contempt of Congress because they didn't respond to a subpoena. This is a new law with, criminal implications if they don't follow it. But I was encouraged, again, by the fact that they went back to these three judges and got the judges to release the grand jury material to the DOJ.
Is that grand jury material enough, do you think, to comply with the law?
No, the grand jury material is just a small fraction of what the DOJ needs to release. Because the FBI and DOJ probably has evidence that they chose not to take to the grand jury. Because the evidence they're in possession of would implicate other people, not Epstein or Maxwell. So the grand jury material is probably going to just be mostly facts and evidence that was used to convict those two. And what we want to see are the facts and evidence that the FBI and the DOJ have never given to a grand jury.
Wow. So as they are saying, as he said there, this is the law with criminal implications if they don't follow it. And the new information is that House Democrats have released more photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. There are about 95,000 to 100,000 photos, according to these reports. And if you scroll up, you'll see some of them. And this is one with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together. I guess he's being greeted or greeting a young lady at whatever event they were attending. And so there's more information to come out. The head of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, says they intend to release more information throughout the coming hours, days, weeks, or next week. And that next Friday, I believe that's the deadline when they're supposed to release the full Epstein files to the Congress. Are they going to try to fight that? Are they going to say, we have an investigation at the Southern District of New York, and therefore, if there's an ongoing investigation, we don't have to release these? Look for that. And or a lot of heavily redacted papers, which possibly tell you nothing. Epstein files, Trump, Clinton, Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, others in newly released photos. Now, you see those names, right? Now, take a look at this Truth Social post. And also, he has said this in sound bites as well. Well, this is an old Truth Social post where he mentions the very same thing. Now, these people, that Donald Trump is telling on himself. And I believe the Justice Department, everybody involved, they're all telling on themselves. Because Donald Trump, I believe, if you listen to him and what he says, if you read between the lines, he is saying, he's giving it away. So all of a sudden you have these new photographs that mention all the people that he's mentioned a while ago. He's mentioned months ago. He's, as I said on Friday aboard Air Force One, to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from the Democratic hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. Okay. So he says all of that. And then he goes on to say, pages of the public Epstein are looking at various Democratic operatives. Now, he doesn't mention himself. He doesn't mention other Republicans. He doesn't mention that Steve Bannon is in there. He doesn't mention Alan Dershowitz, who's been carrying his water. But he is saying Democratic operatives like Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., are in the Epstein files. How do you know that? I mean, it's been said before, but why is he mentioning him, and why is he mentioning all the very same people who are in the pictures? Come on, y'all. Are we really going to pretend that we don't see what's going on? That one can conclude, if you were sitting in an interview room, or if you were sitting in not the witness box, but if you're sitting next to the judge testifying, boy, you'd have some explaining to do. Boy, you got explaining to do. And Donald Trump has some explaining to do. He's got some explaining to do. All these people, Bill Clinton has responded. Alan Dershowitz has responded saying, I kept my clothes on. I don't like massages from young girls. Alan Dershowitz believes that he has been completely exonerated from this. That's what he says. I don't know if you agree, but anyway. And Donald Trump is now flailing. He keeps saying, we need to stop talking about this. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.